Hi, welcome to Coffee Break with Researchers. Today I'm having a coffee break with Torben Schubert. He's an associate professor at Lund University and at Fraunhofer ISI.
Coffee Break with Researchers presents you with cutting-edge insights on regional development and innovation. We ask researchers directly and in a personal manner about their work. We make scientific knowledge accessible to all.
Torben, thank you very much for accepting this invitation to have a coffee break with me. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, Lorena. It's really nice to be here and I'm looking forward to this coffee break with you.
Same here. I'm not asking you about which coffee are you having because we're actually having the same, but I want to discuss with you your paper on product innovation and educational diversity. Could you please tell me what the paper was about?
Yes. As you may guess, all firms now with an internationalizing and continuously more diverse employee base are actually facing the problem of how to manage that diversity. And what is interesting when you look at, for example, the mission statements by all the larger companies like Apple or Mercedes or Volkswagen, they have a very positive ground position on that diversity is boosting their innovation capabilities. Needless to say, actually there's also a lot of research about that going on. But if you look at the results, what you will find is actually that the results are fairly ambiguous. Sometimes finding positive effects, sometimes negative, or maybe sometimes not at all. So there's definitely something that is riddling us, and there's missing a piece from the puzzle.
How interesting. So why did you write the paper?
Well, I think the fact that there is this assumption of a positive kind of boosting, innovation boosting effect of diversity, but with a lack of empirical support for it, I became really curious about what it is that we are not fully understanding here. And what we are now proposing in the paper is the idea that maybe it has to do with where diversity, in which type of teams diversity is actually located. And what we do here, and I think that's a very important distinction that hasn't been made so far, is distinguishing between top and middle management teams.
And why do you think it was so important to make this distinction?
Yes. There is a tendency, I think, in the academic research on the topic, and there's a broad topic on diversity management and how it is affected by particular management teams. But this literature really makes really an effort to understand the role of top managers. So there's this idea that these godlike, heroic persons and figures who really decide on the fate of companies. But of course, they are important, but there is something in between. So there are people also in the employee base like really doing the work. And we of course have the middle managers who kind of put in place the strategies and implement them. And our interest was actually in understanding the diversity that is across these teams. So not just top management teams, but also middle management teams.
Wow, how fascinating your topic. So which ones will you say are the key findings of your research?
Yes, and that is something that I think brings us a little bit back to the original kind of puzzle of why some studies find there's a positive effect, others find no effect on innovation of diversity, and others find maybe even a negative effect. What we find in our paper is actually that it depends very much on whether we look at innovation inputs or innovation outputs. What we actually really can determine based on our analysis is that the innovation input, that is the decision, for example, to invest in R&D and the decision on how much to invest in R&D is really driven by the top managers. That is logical, one would say, because they are the ones controlling budgets. But their diversity has fairly little influence on whether this money spent on innovation is used effectively. It is the diversity in the middle managers who really implement the strategies then that drives these innovation outcomes.
How important that is. So finally, I want to ask you about the practical implications of your research. In this case, I assume specifically for managers. What would you say there to top or middle managers about your field, your research?
Well, I think the good news to start with is that indeed diversity can be an important boost for innovativity. So the mission statements by companies like Apple, Lidl or Volkswagen are actually not wrong in the sense of, okay, they kind of creating a hype around this diversity thing, and in the end it doesn't make a difference if we are diverse or not. It is what we find, a pool of diversity that really drives innovation. But what is important is not to look only at top managers, so really the upper echelons in a company, but really look also at lower level ranks, for example, middle management teams, and in the broader sense, also the whole employee base. So what we are promoting here is diversity management is important, but it needs a holistic view.
Wow, that's great to know. Torben, thank you very much. Dankeschön. I wish you all the best for your future research and hope to see you next time in a coffee break.
Thank you very much, Lorena. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more details about this academic publication, you can find here the link below. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our podcast on Spotify. See you next time. Bye-bye.